So we're on page 265, verse 80.
Oh yeah. That dig carry shake your sena. Nel to Joalembe duty shake do. Jungo sungdo. Mid shishashi mid ame kokbenalia. Tambu kudragnalia sem di showiora. Or did you sanko the near to Joalembaro? Or did duty carry jungo sungdo? This will have
So the topic that this verse covers is identifying the cause of taking birth in a womb. Here, taking birth means when you have the ovum and the semen, and then I guess we say when they come together, it's kind of an embryo, and at that point the consciousness enters, and it's more like conception, I think, here.
당에도 담배바 지당 메디시거라 지당 김비서 아메 고베나랑에 돈이좀 저게 규데카레스나 시거라 네 달라 착바 단덴베세 소소리아 착바 개버세바 고벨렘바 요라 어때나시 달라 착바 요레스거라 착바 단덴베 아니 뚱아 대화 존나 참 대화자 톰나서 동해 마주나서 베삼리오레 제가 디왕게네 시갈람물이야 지겨나서 통해거나 지 내도 되나 섬직 삼루고요라 매우 차이도 섬지 딜 때네 대화 톰되다 강해 주는 나서 뛰다 되나 섬베 디모고 디고도 섬산시오라 딜 때네 저 치마 겨울이요레서 그래 현다지 원주라 소바 하다 된데 저 원유 제제 디날이야 겨울랑 주고요 말해서 그래 지금 제가 버켈리 말아
네.
제가 원주라 소바 현다지 디날이야 겨울랑 주고요 말해서 그런 식으로 몰이야 달라 착바요 그래서 나 대화 전화 강에 되면은 지 통해요나 리에요나 빙자도 좀 이도요나 로봇도 요나 섬사시오 거라 딜 때는 겨울랭게 그래서 그래 뒤도 돌좀 되면 나한테
So that verse then reads, one who desires to obtain happiness and avoid suffering takes birth in a lower abode because of having attachment to self without being led by other sentient beings. So here, this is the system of somebody who, the Buddhist system, where not accepting a creator deity, so or a divine creator. So here, here the idea of having attachment to self is it's talking about the eighth and ninth factors of dependent arising, which are craving and attachment, or craving and what do we say now? Grasping, or appropriation is another way translated. But at that point, then, so that there's no creator, divine creator bringing it about. There's just that attachment and grasping that time that or craving and grasping that. Where you're craving, the person at that point is craving to happiness. It means you want to be able to see and experience everything you were experiencing before that brought you happiness, friends, and good things to eat and so forth, and you don't want you don't want all the suffering. It's sort of like you're going towards the what you perceive to be causes of happiness, and you're going away from the causes of suffering, like the illness that you had and the difficulty of death and so forth. So it's that kind of attachment then that causes one to be to take birth in the womb.
Yes, oh, they call leg or the Mikawan in the Sasara. Le Yogora. And it is Le Kawada Mika Le Batalia. The certain getty to the Lunasia, Trumbus on Gedra, certain getty. Seba de Chigora, Gaba Seba Kuba Lambasadua. And it Chuba Sebas, the Nimasasha Bele, Kawada Miguel Carina, Telias, King Sertapsia, Tumbusasia. And it called Jolly Gora, Gaba Seba Kuba Chuba Sibeliasia, and it was about Josigua, which is a called Seba de. And it changes a Lala Sertapsia, Kitty Sertap, and it Jolan Gora. Shendas Semion Gay Shendas, Charandina Jolan, Gundina Jolan, Sada Midanya, Ida Tandutel, Jolan Shenda, one social one member say, Lenchon get your mother's order. Suggestion you to me about Satira. Suggestion that you want you can tell it Jolan to your mother's order.
So that time there's you're either a virtuous karma or a non-virtuous karma that's what's the word, nurtured and brought to its total its maximum potentiality, and that's the 10th of the 12 factors called sometimes existence, sometimes becoming. And so then at that point, though, there's no being, there's some other being. Here it mentions sentient being. It means no other creator deity somehow directing you towards either an unfortunate birth or a fortunate birth, that there's no being led by other sentient beings. And what was it? And then you're helplessly under the influence of this, of attachment and the karmic result.
Yes, Lady con Niban Duci Lese, Tommy Marbe con Niban Duci Lesa, oh, Ticarina, Tidil set up Giora, Tidilea.
So then there's the second of the 12. This karma that we're mentioning is the second of the 12 factors, and that second is translated different ways. I forget. There's something about formations, I think is the one that we have, so one or compositional activity is another one. I forget, but it means compositional activity of karma. That's really karma there. So that's the karma that's being nurtured by the 8th and the 9th factors.
Dewa tobar deba yina sigora, ta kachi toba kukuyara. Dewa si topna sam tunge mena samne kyo langi yona, ani dewa yaga chi langurwa, dukwa karichan langi yore sigora, toba chigora. Dewa tobar deba yina, tunge ki ne rangar lemba mite doose, tunge wa nyewa yida tundula soba, tunge ki ne tinte kyo langi doa sigora. Ani ko kyo lemba de dewa tobar deba de tunge de dewa dene, any Jolangi, any Tawachi, Yosachi, Jolanguramado, Tunga Yosal Karchi, Jolangi, or Esigora, Kachi Tobacura, or teach you love that.
So the opponent then, if we look on page 266 where it says opponent, if rebirth occurs because of a desire to attain happiness, it is unacceptable that one willingly take birth in a suffering abode. So so they're thinking that, well, if you really want happiness at that point, then how could it possibly be that you're going to take rebirth in a situation that's going to bring you suffering? Well, don't do so.
Yeah, that's the language. Language, think you my race. Koran get it, the Wajona, Tunga Machuna, some Seba Yungora. Tawa Toban Dubala Seba, Tunga the Traveler Seba Yungora. In a Seba, Tendeshi, some or the Yina. Called Tawa Tungele, Tawa Lumgi or the Tish, get your Maris water, the Mara. Tungel Chinjilo does it. Tunga Yina, Chita Tunga in a Korean Luloja Kanga Tunga. Tunga Kingeroa. Tunga Yina, Cote Loki or Reswara. Tunga Chinjilo dance. And it take only a Seba yores, Tawala Seba, Tunga the Traveler Seba. Chapa. Oh, do you want any yores? Seba Kunechuani, did you use a quadrille to Reswara? Can't let them ever tell each other. Trajum Batazolia, Seba Yomare. Trajum Bacala, Seba Yomare. They measure quality or lingi Omares, Rala Rama, letting you mount your lingi Omares. Sologache. To me, Chinjilo, the Seba Kunechuani, used. Trajum Bacalia, Seba Meba Teleatini, Coetiola, do my race.
So here, if we look at the response, Buddhist response, it follows that there is no contradiction in our position, because the inverted cognition that apprehends suffering as happiness, it's a, what do you say, a wrong cognition that sees apprehends suffering as happiness means that in a samsaric place or a samsaric, what do they say, a location or a locale, I guess is another, a samsaric location or a samsaric body and samsaric resources are all, in fact, have the nature of suffering. But we see them wrongly. It's really inverted cognition. You just sort of see them in the opposite, that they're happiness. So then, and then that combines with craving that desires to attain happiness. These are the causes of a person's complete bondage, the cause of birth in samsara. So this follows because some arhat who does not invertedly crave anything will, invertedly is this word, the wrongly crave, or invertedly crave is perhaps better than, will not be born in samsara by virtue of having utterly abandoned that craving.
No, Tangani de Soloka woman, Gasu Gasum derva, Gasum dua, Chip the Tal Rosara, Gasu Gasum de Karshego Sena, Ne, Gasura, the Chobachugiwara, Chobachugiwara, Joachima Drungachi, Yanasugora, Vine, Dene Shisan, Joachima draw, Naman and Dilla, Gavala, Dene Chimal draw. Joachima Drungachi, Yanasura, drones in the Consachi, Yanasura, Naman and Dirion, Ame Cobanal, Nizamchar, Teneshigalam, Denechini, Chino Pound, Joashandas Drungachi, Yanasura. But didn't go to Tongo, right? It told him and do Asura. Going on and Deron get into the Chima Drungachi, Maresa. The units and I do send me Miko, send me Maton Hs, Zabachugara. Getting drawn Maton there. That'll fall Lanjagora. Collegia, getting drawn Matona, say, one will message Maton say. Draw down one the Tongo Mario, Gangazu Tongo Maresura. Can be Karan give me the Sabo Mares, Kangaton to give me Sabo Maresura. One will message Maton say. Perna said the Pejada. mi sebu menge de dole to chunju tende yoba ina tungu me do asa tina shere esa wala pena mi sa ke go da mi sebu mena to to ma chunju re ta tungu marwa o tina shere esa do pena mi sa to chungu me do shes
So if we go to 267, then the opponent is basically making the objection that well, if there's somebody who takes rebirth in the womb and then lives a life and then dies and that at that point then goes to the next life and reborn in a womb and conceived in a womb and then is reborn. Well, we should be able to see such a person, but nobody sees such a person, so they don't exist. And it should be like we have some kind of valid perception of such a person. So there is no going to or coming from other lives because we do not see them, is the opponent saying. So if we read right there on page 267. So then the Buddhist response to that is it follows that the fact that you, Lokayatas, do not see other lives does not prove that they are non-existent, because you, Lokayatas, have unclear sense faculties. For example, an unclear eye will not see a minute amount of smoke, even though it is present. This happens when, in the elderly, the eyes become unclear, and then you can't detect small amounts of smoke. So it's like that. That do something.
저 나만의 신의 대용의 벌시바 드네 신의 심한동게 벌시바 시고라 아주 벌시시라 들려 디 나만의 대용게 드네 심한동게 벌시바 되시고라 아니 미게 마토나야 그 속보 여러바 아니 토구르바 아주 파전도 그 벌시반 두고네 아주 속보를 토구르 와시고라 토예면도 와시고라 아주 파전도 제 토구면도 와시 미게 마토나 그 속보 여래 이 속보 아주 토구르 와시 토구면도 와시 디선자 요 말에 삼바이나 시고라 딜레 렌자고라 딜레 렌자고래 그래서 디서 장변지 마토면도 어디 보던도 미게 마토야 르로 톡바 시발라 시도 디오디라 미게 통기 말데 르디 ko 르제르바네 ko 르딩아 줄 톡바 시그래 데 르르가 줄 통게 미도 아세 르르 톡바 쳔메 마미비시 통에 미도 아시고라 데네 버시버시 껴 랭강아마 데네 치마도 게도 마레스 나시고라 켈레바 랭자고라데 랭자고라 간데레스네 르제야 트라베신 가실라라 토마데 르제데레 소보 요르데 차외 소보레 땡아주 통통 말해서 오라 르제야 트라베신 가실라라 통메데세 바시바데 뭐불라라 토바메바 누구레세 쪽저레 진에 그 쪽저게 누구 말 고샤잔도 셔레 라라르 토메데세 코란 껴랑사게 아맹에 이나다 뒤이나다 가와이나 텔레손은 토고여고 껴랑사들레손 다가 토지 때겨라 기마도 셴다 가서 통메든 도셔고라고 주주이나신 가시 라라르 통메데세 망차를 토고 말해서 오라 껴랑사도 마도 깨빼들인데 추신세랑 뭐 추신 마도시나 매바 매세 자마사바들 출루나고 베데 마 팀제고 도그레서 와라 통구마르다마 도그레서 와라 추신세랑 뭐 통매도 조그레서 마토버스바 도샤그레서 디나시리 빼자고 뭐야
So the response then, the Buddhist response is that no, I didn't say what the opponent said yet. The opponent then comes up with another, well, it's a debate really. It's saying, well, if this It's talking about the intermediate state being, somebody in the bardo here, that being. Okay, so if you can't see it with your eyes, then you should be able to touch it because it has a body, and we should be like, running into these intermediate state beings. But since other lives, so he says, or she says that, but the smoke, even if it's not seen by the eyes, can touch the body. Since other lives are not the intentional objects of any sense cognition, they are non-existent. So just we can't see them, we can't touch them, they don't exist. Then the Buddhist response here is some embodied beings in the intermediate state, etc., are embodied beings. They have bodies, but are intangible. You can't touch them because they have bodies that are subtle and pass through solid objects without resistance. Here, the bardo being, or the intermediate state being, is somebody that goes through solid objects. They just pass through solid objects until they come to the place where they're going to be reborn, and then that's where they can't pass through that. They enter that place. So, but then they're passing through everything else, solid objects, without resistance. So there's no sense of touch going on. Just as water enters fresh clay, if you put water in a fresh pot that hasn't been put in a kiln, and then the water will slowly seep into the clay, and as mercury enters gold, without resistance. That's
This one. Oh yeah, that didn't matter. This year, that young color, Chera Ludi, you lieutenant, you nasiguara. Oh, tension getting Ludi, conditional cigars, Luton touch a cigara. Oh, Ludi.
Oh, they tell you,
Got it.
check the Namade.
Yeah, no loss.
No, they logo.
You lost on Jang Biggie, Maton, Shana, maybe the Villa, Jang Biggie, Maton, Sibish.
Oh, did. Therefore, it follows that it is not the case that other lives are non-existent just because you, lokayatas, do not see them. Because even if they do exist, it is impossible that you, lokayatas, see them.
Oh, yeah. Ako Ludi, Lutan, Hitcher, Ludi, Lutan, Hisigora. Tita Ludi, the Tajasigora. Nico Lu Ragba, Telesigora, Duchentu, Tenchigora, Lu Ragba, the Tenchigora, Sigora. Oh, Lu Ragba, the Tenchigina, Kari Tenchigora, Yala Changi, Lu Sigra, could the Chamin Sigra. Koran de Verita, Shita Keshmuda. Yala Changi, Lucy, Yala Sandi. Lagbada, Kangbada, Tutense, and the Yalarva, Lugi Yalarva. Yala chance and the Sanga, you get the Lutelia, Soba chance or a Tilla Yala chance Sigora. Penangazu Ludi Yala chance. And then go the Lugi Yala, the Lagba Lugi Yala, the Kango Lugi Yala, the Yala Yala Sigora. Yala chance to Santa Sukanga Totenge. You get the Yala chance Sigora. Soba chance Sigora. Yala chance Lugi or the Chamere Sigora. Quando da di c'era basing che sono debara da ina ko jambe balo c'era di dile seguinte dile seguinte sta c'è ora e ko di sam ora ko samlude la barwa di lui yanarwa lui yanara di yanarwa di re ne lui yanarwa di re ko ne ci bodo lui yanarwa Yala Remato, Yala Chance Logayo Mara, Loso Mara, Toya Medua, Chitune, Chetu, go down to Gangashi, Yala Jarva Kanga. Yala Chance and get the Kares, Chamir, to Sake Yomare, Sache Yomarco. Yala Chance, the Chamire.
Chame.
chame.
Yena chen chame.
Chame ro. Yala chen de zu se yo mare. Desene yala ro. Lugi yala ro. Lugi yala ro. Lugi yala ro. Lugi yala ro. To yala chen ka yo re sigora. Yala chen de yo re de chame re sigora. Cha che yo mare ko yala de di yala chen ke lu cha che de se ko zu se ra me do. De se no ze ra ma ro. 저 양라 참매세라고.
참매.
그래도
됐어.
참매세를 지나니요라. 초기 참매세, 깨지 참매세 들이거라.
되게 참매.
네 초기 참매세. 다 깨지 참매세요라. 초기 참매라다.
초기 참매.
디디디디세요 마. 디주고는 양라래도라. 양라 제라고요 말아. 그래서 양라 참매세 깨는 거라. 다 양라 제게 류 참매대 Yilu ten sene dig mare yala chengi lu chame de yo mare tele kyo yo re se kyo khashish tang yo ta tambu jis labda ne ya go di ha
So now we're on the analysis of the body and how is it, and so then this is really a position of the Vaisheshika, but here the opponent is felt to be a Charvaka, so they're just saying, well, how about this, and well, about taking different assertions from different groups. Here we're going to be talking about wholes and parts, and so then this particular assertion is that the whole is what do you say? Directionally partless. You can't really point about this section, that section. Whenever anything that you point to in the body it's just a part. You only got parts there. You can't really point to a whole. So then the whole, you have to say, is it's really talking about directionally partless, in the sense that you can't point out where it is, something like that.
Yes, da yala chengi lu chame yosne tele gawa sum tangdwa. Gawa sum kyo sum tangwara. Tinane kyo tangbude Chavala tembe can do setera. Chawa setal ten gawa tangiora. Chavala tembe get to shake your rest labda.
So there's three different faults to such a position, and the first one is that it is contradicting on the basis of action.
Oh yeah. Don't dig gawa can tangusna. Laso yona tamje yora jursin gawa chen setere. Sigani dua. Lagba kujo japsuna yosona. Ne yala chengi ludi yogu yo mare sigora. Tangbe kujo japsona yala chengi ludi yogu yo mare sigora. Yosana kujo jasira yo. Lagba jedu tarjo yogura. Watina she kasure. Laso yona lagba dan kangba dan gola soba dende yosona yala chengi ludi yogu yo mare stoti gora ko. Yala di yogu yora jugu diresi de yala yogu yora. Ta yala chengi ludi yogu yo mare sigora. Di toti gora. Laso yona tamje ta yora jusin gawa chense. Kibi luji lagba la sokba la dundi tube. Dan dundi si tisha umare ko. Dir nyam dundi drawa se drawa de ko dundi se yang drawa se gora ti kesere. Yushan dura. Kibi luji lagba so dundi tube yala chen yo nas ta yala chen gi luji yo so nas gora kujo jap so nas. Ane lu tamje je yala chen yo ran yo atas. Lagba re yo so na zuchi yo so na. Ane zugule kebe yala chen de yogu yorwa se gora. Zugu yala chen le dosa chokba chi gora. Zugu yala dosa yala chen de yogu yorwa se gora. Zugule kebe luji yala chen de yogu yona. Ane kangba dan dezol kebe kanga yala chen kanga yogu yorwa se gora. Di kujo jodin dile dine kujo lu kanga yogu yorwa se gora. Yala chen de. Zugule kebe yala chen de yosona. Gole Chebe, Yala Changilu, the Yogi or the Vesigore. The Yona, and if you could judge on the Luke Uncle could judge on the Chandore. Yala Changi. This one. Or did the Zugu Zuguli Chebe, Yala Changi Yogi, Gole Chebe, Yala Changi Yogi Marisana, and the Yala Changilu, the Shaman Budoase. Young get the Mayon get a Chinese to us. And it's Chamere Mason's. This one. Oh, yeah. Lasso Yona Tamjet, you and your share Gawachan Segua. Give you Luigi, Lagwala Sogba, Yalacha, your nance, Lutamje, Yalacha, your and Gurata. Tini Chamichi in Besher. Zuguli Chebe, Yalacha, Giluted, Kambala Chebe, Yalacha, Lungola Chebe, Yalacha, Luci, Chamichi, Wachimata, Mara, Chayomara. And Zugu did a good judge on Yalacha, but a good job got us. Majan Zugu Chebe, Yalacha, yo. Goli Chebe, Yalacha, the Mayul Dana, Chinese Redura. And it's Chaja Redura.
So the way this is, the first contradiction is the base of action. So if the hand, etc., of a person's body, or in this case, Genla was saying his finger, of a person's body, that where the body is, to which the whole is proven to be connected, so the hand or the finger is connected to the whole. We're talking about this whole that doesn't, it's hard, we've already talked about whole and parts, but this is just sort of talking about, it's a separate word for parts, and it's really talking about that cha or section. Maybe we can try something different, but anyway, so, to which the whole is proven to be connected, then moves. So if one section moves, then it follows that, well, isn't that all the body will move, because the hand and the body are a partless one. That's basically what cha-me means, is we're talking about a partless one. And so then the whole body moves. It's just one thing moves. It follows that this reason pervades, because it is suitable that a partless one be an appropriate basis for the contradictory actions of movement and non-movement. So the hands can, if some part moves, and then if the other parts don't move, okay, then because there's something that moves and doesn't move, then it becomes, it's no longer partless, because there's sections that move and sections that don't move. So it's contradictory, the idea of movement and non-movement.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, that the Lene Chigla Mirun Shantu Tada Truber Joseph Chicken Womani and Gudwa. What the Garcia, the yo Mayoke, Yala Chandler, yo Mayoke, Chinese Yona, yo Mayoke, yo Adam Mayo, Chinese Yona, Yona Yala Tamja Yoko with it, Chig Mayona Yala Tamja Mayoko with it, and they took it as Gora. Take over it, Carson, Lene Chigla Mirun says, yo Adam Mayo and you didn't Gawaraba. Could you Jabba, could you Majab and you did Gawaraba? Yo Adam Mayo. Gawaji and the Chawani would the Chami Chigla Rungumares, Koyala Ludi Chamina. Kochi could you Kanga could you Majam the child Legumara? Says Yo Adam Mayo and Gawaji and the Lany would the Chami Chigla Rungumares. Not to lose Chajerba, Chaser and Yo Adam Mayo Rungura, Lagba Yugo, Lagway the Yugo Mado, you can go Yogomara. You a Chatameo Chinese Ashura, Yalajaria. Oh dear, commerce and Tipia Dagdo. Then Chigla Mirun Shendo Tada Truban. You may use Gawaji and Leni Chami Chigla, she didn't do Mirun Chesera, Leni Chigla Mirun Ches. Shendo Tada Truban. Dama do not say you may nigga Yovana, and it's Chata de Bani to do the Tina and Chamiri Marisagora. Oh, yeah.
So then, moving and not moving, or movement and non-movement, are contradictory actions. So then, because if it's a partless one, then it would be unsuitable for it to have these contradictory movements. It has to be either all moving or not moving, and so then, if the reason is unproven, then it follows that the body will be proven otherwise to have different parts. So if it can both move and not move, then it's proven to have different parts because of the contradictory actions of movement and non-movement. Movement and non-movement are possible only in something that is like what we say is that the body has parts, not a partless one.
Lagwala chabe yana changi lu chachi yogyora. Goji chugutene yangola chabe yana changi lu yogyomara. Yoga the mayo chaniga shasore, yana changi chajayina. Ko yoga cha yo chashi yosuna yosire, chashi yomas mayo chaniga shasora. Yana changi chami chiginsana. chache mewe chigirang rwa. Chigirang me do mewe ina cha mewe ina ko chigyo na ganga yogora. Chig mayo na ganga mayo gora. Tin dewa tangi ora.
So for like in our system, a Buddhist system, then there's both movement and non-movement in something that has it's something that has parts, or the whole has sections or parts. I think we just have to say parts. It's not partless. But when you have these two with respect to something that's partless, then it becomes unproven that there could be no different parts, because it's either the whole body moves or it doesn't move, and so that it's contradictory then to have movement and non-movement in something that's partless.
Tangani soluga jazu jadu derida. Soluga jazu jadu de karishe gorosena. 통화를 때문에 견두시거라. 아주 무슨도 통화를 계란 개와 연구해서라. 통화를 때문에 견두 개와 연구해서라. 어디 간데서나 된도와. 지트바나 탐제다 티버를 교함 마티나 통교로 직순기 교나 교랑 마주 똑바로 교세되라. 네 가서 그래서나 기비 동제 거기 티바나서 직티바나서도 동대제 돌로데 가서 방고 동제 거기 tip되어라. 동대제 거기 tip소나서거라. 동대 거기 요소나서거라. 직티바나서 야라고 거기 요베나 카레나. 소부메데 거기 요되어라. tip되어라. 어야. 직티바나 탐제다 티버를 교함서 기비 동 직부 거기 tip나서거라. 돌로파 tip소나서거라. 아니 류 탐제 거기 tip바나 교다. 네 소부 참마 거기 집어 통구도 왜서 거라. 이 통구 말와. 동어 거기 샌다 TV 말와. 나도 매일이야. 거기 둘로 TV로 동도 통구도 라고 통구도 와. 탐제 TV 말와. 다 전화전 강가 TV 통구 그래서 거라. 동그 샤시 거기 팁소나 둘로지 파 팁소나 요소나 마통하시나 청마 마통게 되고 그래서 거라. 근데서 동 기부 동 집어 거기 TV나 류 탐제다 거기 TV 나오는 요아다스. 파다도자 그 류창마 찾아데 그 집에 통기를 해서 오랍니다. 파다도. 그 통고 말와. 어야. 되네. 통고 그래데 대양라니 참미지 베서. 통게 마지베 류비 찾대다. 통고 그 집에 류지 참미데 참미지로 와서 오라. 참미지는 집에서도 마지베시 레 말와. 마지베시 라게네 찾아야 돼. 마지베 찾아야 돼. 어디서 오라. 야나 참미 지긴 베서. amde yana koje tiba yenje yana chen madribe tola timadrige chanye medo shen dedere dadang bu tijilabna chitibana tamje da tiban giro as tijilabda madribe chelamna kasar.
So then it's contradictory on the basis of seeing, just our own visual, what do you say? We can decide when we look at it that it's contradictory. Look at the body. So if one part here, the body, usually we're covering one part and leaving one part uncovered. In Genna's case, the head and the arms, but the other part is all covered with cloth or clothes. So then if one part, say a person's face, if we just read here at the bottom of the last paragraph on page 270, if one part, a person's face, is covered by a cloth, it follows that the whole body will appear to be covered by a cloth, because the body is one whole without two parts. You can't have something that's partless. It's either going to be covered or not covered. so either the whole thing's covered, or the whole thing, then just there's parts that are covered and parts that are not covered. And once you have parts that are covered and uncovered, then you have, what do you say? Then you can't say it's a partless whole. It has parts, the covered part and the uncovered part.
This one.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Tibar guru ham says do de ham sigdo. The chitipa na tamje the tibar guru re sigdo. Tibar guru ham mativ na sigdo. The ham said to the karesana. Amde yala koje kotsu lenja yora. Tinde labe ina yansura. Yala koje tiba yenje yala chen madube tela timadu chanye medosna. Don't the tibu san yala don't the tiba mado yala chen tibu mare sigora. Yala chen timeza yala chen le tiba da madiba ni yo mare sigora. Tinde labgor chu labe ina sigora. Shena sigora. Madib na se ta yala chen the tiba na sigora. Don't tiba mado don't yala chen lu the tiba mesna sigora. Tulo yo mesna sigora. Madib na tongju se. Ona de se tongge yala chen de madibar tongwa gyurwata. Tela madiba tongru duye beshe. Ona de se tongge yala chen de tongla chamge yala chen de madiba se tongju yawata. Tido tongme timme beshe sigora. Tongla chebe yala chen ge lude. Yani tido tongge de beshe sigora. Tongla chebe yala chen ge lude tongla tongde nyamdo tonggu yara. Tong trip chara.
That's good. So
Yala chen de trivia mare shara.
Oh, concept then they love it. But they're sort of squirming out of this one with the different words, So then, so you had, like if you cover the face, okay, then. So they're saying, well, you're not really covering the whole. You're just covering. I don't know. It's just like you're covering a limb. It's a literal translate. Another way of saying it you're covering a limb. You're not covering the whole thing. Yeah. And they.
동기 양라 젠데 류데 티마레스 라고라
네.
데나 고 동요셔요라 동요 말아 다 동기 양라 젠게 류데니 동기를 해서거라 동구로 티비요 말아 서거라
네.
티비에나 동기 양라 젠게 류데 동기는 동데 동구라
네.
다 동기면은 동기 양라 젠게 류데 말아고 진짜
칼리 동디
동기 말아
동기만 동.
거기 요셔요라
네.
거기 요셔요라 근데 동기 양라쟁기 류데 드비오 말와 다 동쪽으로 와고 드면은
네.
요요 말와
네.
동기 양라쟁기 류데 통하다 하시거라
네. 네. 네.
이 동선은 단다 통해지 동기 양라쟁기 류데 통은 동데 냠도 통구라
네.
동 매베디는 동 매베 양라쟁기 류라
네.
동데 냠도 통구레스
So then what they're saying is that they're making this assertion that you're covering the face, which is just a part or a limb, and you're not covering the whole part. And so then they said, well, if you've covered the response of the Buddhists is then, well, if you've covered the face, then you're not going to see the whole, So then, how can you? Once the face is covered, then you can't possibly see this partless whole, and
this one.
no, do so.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, you have a partless whole that doesn't have a face, it doesn't have a head or whatever, So then you got that problem. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's somebody karshe dosna. Somebody yendel tembe gendu sigra. Yendel tembe gawa yung dos sigra kera. Karesna chik chöngi gyurna se ya chöngi. Dongde bjil chön tang sona sigra. Dongde chön tang jongbo buchu shasuna. Chik chöngi gyurna gyuram se dong chikbu ngombe chöngi ka gyurna se dong gang ngombo so shasuna chön chukje. Gyurna Lü ka gyuwa nawan gyuwada. Lü chazan di ngombo chön chushaba tonga tasigora. Tonga gyuwa tasigora. Chikchön ge gyurna gyuram. Lü ki chakanga chön ge ka gyuwa tongu resigora. Tongu resiyanara. Chikchön ge gyurna gyuram. Ma gyuru tokban gyusire. Changma ka gyuru mesena. Rwa. Da dangbu deshi lamne le lama dungani. 동데 청기 카규서 나서와 이미 동지부대 공부 청기 카규나 리리부 청기 카규와 나온 교라다 야라제 니 참이지 임베서 동게 야라제기 리다 제마이겐게 동 락바게 야라제기 리도 참이지를 봐서거라 아니 동데 청기 카규서나 동 야라제기 리데 청기 카규로 와 진짜
가규
저기 뭐 통고라
네.
뒤에 또 류차장 뭐 통고 그래서
No, did you so? So the one here is contradictory. The third one then is contradictory on the basis of qualities. If one part, the face, is painted blue, it follows that the entire body will appear to be painted because the body is one whole without two parts. Then the opponent comes back here again saying the word or in the root verse means that part is painted but the whole is not. That's they're saying.
This one.
It's similar to the Drison.
Yeah.
Then
this one.
Oh
yeah, this is what. 동지부 청기 카교서나 서거라. 양아 청기 류창마 청기 카교와 통화 다르시거라.
네.
동게 양아 청기 류다 Shenda Kangbe Yana Changi Ludi Chami Chigri Basugora. Gene Lu Yana Changi Lu Chama, Changi Kajur Resugora. Tongo Resugora. Kashe Maton Tonani, Yana Changi Kudi Chache, Yana Changi Ludi Chache Rendura.
So then if there's one part that's, well, the question is, is the face of the whole and the arm of the whole the same? We're talking about the same whole. If part is not covered, then you have this contradiction that there's two parts. So that then it couldn't be partless.
This one. No, yeah, that is it. Yeah, my good double. And I'm getting Yana Changi Kajur, Yana Chita, this. That teacher to Changi, Guru, Tongon Buchita, Changi Magure, Tongon Busosoro, Toban Guruatas. Changi Guru, Tongon Musum to Tong, do you take Kandan, do you to be Changi, come Magure, Yana Changi, Tong, Misha, Kachita, Tongu to Yeshe Sera. I said, don't the change choose on a cigar, Sangambo choose on a. And it is Yana Changi. Dongi Yana Changi Ludi Changi Kajur Gura. The Changi Kajur man, Dongi Yana Changi Ludi Tonya Yogura. And it don't dare go Changi Majurja Tonya Yogura. Misha and Misha Yunga, don't the Chan Majority Sigara.
Because of Kado.
Kado Changi Kamaju Tongures. And that Don Kajur Changi Kajur. Don't the Changi Kajure, don't you, Changi Kamajure, don't you need Toya Yoguresigora? Garesan, don't you the Changi Kajurava? The majority guys, don't get Yana Changi, Jurio Marva. Don't get Yana Changi, Jurmane, don't get Yana Changi, don't Yogurako, don't Yana Yogura. Yana Changi, Yamdo, don't come Majure, Guresigora. And it don't just about that you see Kajuchi. Misham doesn't go to
So if you say that the part is painted but the whole is not, then you have the problem of, well then in this last paragraph where the Buddhist response is saying, well then it follows that we will cognize individually two faces, one that has been painted in blue and one that is unpainted, because when we see by perception the face painted blue, it is also suitable that we see an unpainted, see as unpainted the whole face, which is the basis of connection of the parts. So here what it's talking about is that if you've got the part that's painted, and so the face is painted, but then the whole is not, well, there must be this whole. I mean, otherwise, this whole that has an unpainted face, because how are you going to have a whole without a face? So there's got to be like two faces.
Teacher talk about you means you do. Teacher talk about you means said, give you Luigi talk about churches, the young agent to churches. Give you Luigi talk about churches, give you Luigi, young agent to churches. Give you Luigi talk about churches, Ragba Chami Chip to Yoba Mendes, Luigi talk about young agent is Chami Chip to Yoma Resora. Teacher talk about Chig you means Chami Chip to Yoba Mendes. Yo mayors of Gengawa, Toman Dubes, Dikelana, you are the Mayo, the Sandy Kajua, the Mayo, the Charlotte, and can do some Jungutoas, some Lassaro.
So then the conclusion is here on the top of page 272, where it says, It's the last line of verse 86, I think. Where is verse 86? Anyway. Or it might be just the beginning of verse, it's the beginning of verse 86. Thus, a collection does not exist as a one. So thus, a person's body collection does not exist as a gross, partless one, because the body combines many contradictory qualities, such as movement and non-movement. This the three that we just talked about, that the contradiction of seeing and the contradiction of qualities. Or did Geshe kya dun or be? Did Tanda? No.
Chidun washe jeme dogbar tawa pang basigdo ragbe chidun tutele zeta de mena se kusu labgora
No.
ragba de yanga che meba se kena tutele re mado meba yina se gora
No.
mena se ene tutele to me ne ga ni le mandela Tutre Janja, Tutre Tatamba, Tutre Jatimado Shanda Yomarwasi. Tutre Bumkashe, the Mado Shanda, Susaba Yomarwasi. Yalache Chamit Yomarwasi. This one. Today, Domain Nega Nila Mandeva Race, Tutema to Yoma Reserda. Yamaji talk about Shashing Medusa or can number. The Dana has a Nama to take cabaret to Magure today, to take some singer to so Nama to take the neck of the Chikba race and boom drama Butona to Tema to Yoma Reservoir, Yamache Rasura. Cabaret to Nama. To take cabaret to Magurbe to take on a religious table and shit and that day or Resigora. Then each children was a talk about member Chilog Su Kamba Medo Chok Mikisheba Musum to Medobarta Sigora. Toya Yomar to take a thought of Mare. To take a loss of Yalan Chamini Yomar Resigora. Children was a talk about member. Namada Cabaret Mebes to take a talk about Cabaret Mebes. Yana change you, Yana Chami Madon to say Mariana charge a shot to Maresigora. Do you tell her in Bichation, Dikanga, do you tell them down the Basura to take down there? I did talk by Yana Shy or Maricana Sigora. That's a look Kambada, Bombada, Jokzida. Meet on that is a toy Mavtagris.
The Chame,
you're not changing, you're not chamming no good. Chamming, you're not changing Manaco, you're not chamming the man, you're not changing Medusa Gora. Majoni, you're not chamming your mother, you're not changing Yora. So which has to do the Yanajara, come by the Yanajara. Goda gave one that to take the Yanara. The Yanajan Shashora. Yanajan, the Chashasha. Can't be charged, they can't be charged, they can't be charged, they can't be charged, can't be Chamambuyora. Could this is out of your mother? To train it to drink and get the reason. Tito talk with Sanity, Chamisha will raise some Gora. Chamimado charges your Mariana, and the chuck on the shower. Chashana really Chazan, the shower, Chazan, the Yana, come by Chazan, the come by Chazan, you can get to Gora. I did it.
So here then, disposing of the alleged consequence that an external object cannot be cognized by a sense cognition. So the Buddhists just established that there is no partless or sectionless whole, and so if a So then this verse on 273, the 86b, if you, the B means the second line, we did the first line previously, then if you say, if an object is just its many atoms, then just as the previous atoms are invisible, so the object will not be cognized, because they are not separately visible, because they are extremely subtle. So this is the opponent is saying it like that. That's the verse. And if we read it with the commentary, it says, if a gross external object is not substantially different from its atoms. So we can't. So you Buddhists say that we can't come up with a. For them, there has to be this partless whole. And so then if there's no partless whole, then all you're going to see is anything you point to is only going to be the parts. So there must be only the parts there. So then it's saying, if a gross external object is not substantially different from its atoms, then it is nothing more than just an occasion of many atoms, hundreds of thousands of atoms together. So then, so if that is the case, then it follows that just as the previous atoms are not visible as separate, so a subsequent external object composed of that of those atoms will not be cognized by a sense cognition. Because the previous atoms, the previous atoms are not visible as separate, and because the atoms are extremely subtle. We're talking about atoms that cannot be perceived; they're imperceptible. So then, and the previous atoms are not visible as separate. They can't. You can't.
This one.
Losonde, konse kachiki, döbede.
Ma dan dibadora.
No, ne.
Du tero yimbe cher shenas dibadora lo ora.
No, ne.
Dibadon this one. Du karis tonda mambuya mareka. That this one.
No, this one.
Yeah, tanga dipaloginda this ora. Chidun de onse ge tokma member ta sigora. Ngama duten re negap dan keba mebe chirsora yana chokba yo mare sigora. Du ngama du nashi du cherab re bashin tanda re du cherab re te ore stani kugdwa. Ta dile ta dambu ma du de chere. Ngama duten re ye bekap dan sururu chen chokba ni keba mebe mare se keba yo re sigora. Ngama duten re chani chamero ka so du cherab ba. 미기 통통 말아. 나 초도장 연락해서 미기 통통게 해서라. 상가마 두체 근데 두체 제제제 카셔시오 버전 디통말 두체로 와. 에고 초루루 제루루 제서나. 근데 그 초바 첨부 샤는 미기 통거라. 제전 공가마다 개발 매바 말이 망부 초서나 통통게 해서 거라. 수 통거래 저지 통거래 통통게 해서 거라. 아니 뒤차로 봤다 말으래. 나만 뒤레레 뒤차로래. 다 초차도 뒤차로 말이라고 그래 시거라. 내가 거라데. 개매바라 마두 개발지 않남니 오유세. 나마 뒤차레레 내가 개발 매바 말에 다다 나마 레레레 뒤차로 그래. 다 초차도 뒤라고 그래 시거라. 개매바라 마두 개발지 않남니 오유 개방하마도 먼저 뒤에서 먼저 속바쳐서나 원부 유도 통통으로 라바차래서 그러나 원시기 미기 집에 수대에서 미기 메시베 내가 개발 매바 말해서 그러나 미기 메시스 뒤에서 와기는 미기 통고 말와 미기 지금 말와 소소나 미기 제토로 통통으로 아마래 개발체도 두레수는 원시기 유도 줄고 베셔서 나만 두제제제제 왔다 메라하시네. 두두 통통고 말해. 수초소나니 메라 수사바시께네. 통통그래 했어요라. 따니바 마두바네서 두제인 베시를 통통고 말해서 두제 말했다 라바레 차레스고라. 두제 미세들에. 본바초제 두제 멤버도 원병 우승게 세메랑도 경계시 데니베셔서 어디바도 랍나니 되그래. 됐어. 디상마 어디 말로네 되그래.
No, so they do. So anyway, the Buddhists then address these two positions. The first one, the previous atoms are not visible as separate. So this is unproven. The Buddhist assertion is that okay, so all these small atoms, we're talking something that's very subtle, then you can't see. But when they are collect together, then they form a visible object that sense cognitions, can cognize. Visual, you can have a visual cognition of. So it is unproven that the form that acts as an objective condition of a sense cognition is not separate from an occasion that does not act as an objective condition. Because necessarily those things that are objects of sense cognition forms are separate from the previous invisible atoms. And what it's saying is they're not, that they come together and form a perceptible object. It's not, that they can't come together and thereby form a perceptible object. And then here, B is unproven. If they're all, because the atoms are extremely subtle, if you put a whole bunch of them together, then you can't see anything. It follows that a pot is not its atoms, because it is an object that can induce certain knowledge independently via sense perception authority, a valid sense perception. So you can when that joins, when they're collected, then they become perceptible.
This one.
No, this one.
Yeah, this one. That did it. That local machine. That's somebody yana chatella tene, chitado kabolani. Oh, she did it. I didn't say it. Rejection. Pinny tipsy loss of it. I did us.
Oh, Thabkhe kage
Thabkhe tamadere one day. Don't cash it on Rosara. No, Thabkhe tamadeta. Thabkhe and it's a catchy. That is rejection. I kept us. That on that digi lamnani. Commodore. You can't read it, Tonto Marwa. Do you read it about Tamujara? Do you Tamu Chunshi to the Kanga? Make a Tonto Mara. Do you Chunshi to the Tanya Woods and Boomji Susosona? Any Kajira was a Tontogra. Read it, Tonto Mara. The call some Karatangursana. To take chicks, Tamurava. Tamu did make Tonto Mara. Titomara, make Tonto Mara. One shake Tonto Mara, Tamura, Chunjura, Chunshura, Tonto Mara. That in the two sona, contra two did the dead mother, children do Mara Segura, Yana Samana, Dadamba Sosona Chibara, Tontambason, Boomson Chibara, to take to danger social desert mother, Yana Jan Sobati or Mara Segura. Tisha took Mara Segura. Tini Chilog go up on Bambi to Young Mara Segura. She didn't Tonto Mara Segura. God is a Keran de Rede Chena, Tonto Mavase. The Rede Mado Toba Saba Lemas was me Tonto so Saba Mava Segura. So Saba years and out the Chachi you make a chamin in good Segura. Yana Jendi. Take Chachi to Mara Segura. Tina did to that in Tipsy take Mare, the Tibala Sobadanchi, Chavachi, the Chozikan Chalasha to take Mare Sigora. Tanganduch and the code there. In a good sauce on a tonto gora, Yalache Yora. Yalache Chame Marma, Yalache Yora. Try the congregation and the Tongumare, Joshua Tarashina. Congregation and Tonto Marga Tartan Bunetana. Then a Ruru Chesetana, Nabuche and Tontogura. So I could sauce on the Tonto yes, you are the Yalacha Resura. Really, and a Tonto Mara. Tommy don't get Yanga Ganga. In a Ruru said the Tonto Gura. Tell a Yalacha shower, the Chaja Resura. Tell a Chamambu Resura. Because I cannot do Loga Tones Medoza, Yalacha Meva Sura. Yalacha in the summit, Sutava Trumas was a Tagatan with the Boom Kashe, Boom Gangatani Bochi Demado, Soba Meva Sura. Soba Yalacha is. This Chame Madon was ever Marisigora. Zuzu said Agio Marian, Sobatelia.
Contra Jena did Chame in Gogi.
Yalacha, you're the Chame Resigora. Yalacha, Yeshe would essay. She told Gloria, take Agres and Zuzu Silomara. Chame Resigora. Who's any Chaja Resigora? Dachi
So then we're on this page 275, verse 87c here. It says, this also clears why the idea that objects do not cover each other, etc., So the opponent then here says that partless that the Buddhists have this idea that um, you know, of the whole, okay, that has parts, that has parts to it, and so then we usually talk about the whole and the parts, but um, anyway, then for that, for the opponent here, you can't have you can't have that the whole has to be whatever, sectionless or partless, and so although it has parts, but it's and that's difficult in the Tibetan in translation. It's just talking about um, you know. It's talking about that like for the house, for instance, you can the house is, Genla gave this example earlier. The house is composed of parts, but the house is this whole, and you can point to different sections of the house, and so then obviously the house is composed of different sections. That's what I'm trying to just sort of fool around with the words, and so that it makes, so I'm not contradicting myself all the time. But they say that you can't have sections. It's sectionless, So then, so that's where. So they say then that the all these different atoms. They never come together to form a whole. That the atoms are always separate. Because because Dutren Trama
Today, Chame Ramado, Chada Chebachimara.
so they
Chajan the Chamir
no, they say that all the different atoms never can produce sections, that they're partless. What do you say? Sectionless. I'm just trying this. So that the whole, which is composed of parts, is sectionless. Maybe we can just try two different words here, and so then. So the atoms never come together to form sections. You can have hundreds of thousands of atoms, but they don't form these sections.
This one.
That picture, Loma, so
that didn't get law. Then you bet the rejection cake was said, do they? Then it tipsy loss of a member that you sell in stitch up to the door. Then it tipsy loss of member, Tanda Dirva. Today, Caberge Tuba, Dine Sigora. Today, the source on a Yalan, some grace, Ralu Sigora, Chacha Yoda. Ragbe Chame, Messina, Ragba Chame, today, Toba Chame, Yalan Chame, Messina. Nichiru Jutan Ton Tukumare said, take your day, Sarah Esgora. What they made Tutan, Yana Jachame Mena, Tutan Sagba, the Chawadi Chetuk Esgora. Oh, this is Lamnandimedo. Then it tipsy loss of a Mabata Saway. Tutan Cabaret Tuban, Tutan Red Neck of the Cabamama, sauce on a ton to Grace, Rabba to Grace, Yara. And the Rabbe Chame the Sigma, Esera, Yana Chame Sigma, Yana Yoda, Esera. Yana Chame message, Chiru Jutola, Tibata, Chiru Juton, Toya Yoto, to take the Esgora. Oh, this is Lamnani Bigra.
So refuting other syllogisms through that is the section, And here, on page 275. And this also clears away the idea that objects do not cover each other, etc. And just as we were talking about the three contradictions in previously, this proof of the aggregate visibility of atoms, such as a partless gross object, is impossible. Also clears away the idea that external objects do not have the ability to cover each other, etc. Because although there are no partless gross objects, there are collections of atoms, and it is shown that they act in such a way as to cover objects.
No, yeah. Bangan de legdo. Solo go gergu de legdo. Bandi karishek dosena. Onse ge tonwa yala che toshe. Tatande tawaresha. Onse ge tonguru ba. Onse ge tonye ge su ina yala che toshe ko marese. Yala chenda yala ni ngo chikpa rese gora nanzu chena. Nangba chena. Yala cheshe mambu che cho ina yala ba. There's a ganga chosen the top of the Yala Cherba. The Yala Chen Zeta de Yomare. Zeta de Yomare, Yala Loso Yala Chen Zutu Seragmara. The Zeta de Yala, the Yala, but the Zunga de Yala de Sierra. And those Bozotena, Chini, some Shinga, Mozong in Zunga de Yalarva. The Yala Chen Karesan, the top of the Yalarva, Yala Cherba. Top of the Yala Cherba. Da coachena, Sobacare, that you say. Dine Yalara, Zutuna, dear Yalara, dear Yalara. Yala change to Zutu Saravio Mare. The Yala change says. Now you're a chalanga, you're a nabud, taking a ready tonto Guamara to China. Tandanga de Rusit every mother, tonto Guamare. In a Yala change shower, then Zutu say Yomare, Chamisa, what I said.
Det kontra about the argument kontra Jaina de
Kayo Mare. To ten ready Tongumarwa. To tell ready and Tongumarwa. To Tenga Nabu Sushi stand Tongumara, de Tongumarwa. Tada Jiles on the Tongumarwa. Taru of Chess on the Tongura. Chiton Tongura, Robachara. The Yalache de Cara to the Mato Yomare. To turn to the Mato Yomara. And remember Yalache and Loga Yomare. To say Yomare, Yalache and that's Yomare. And the Yalache said what that Chamere. The Yalache Yalache Namar, did West demanded Nayanali Yalache to say Yomare. The Yalache, yes, a Yalache and the Chamere is a and I just in the Yalache Chamema do talk about the Yalache is a gara.
Sober the
Yalache. The Chajere. The question of the talk about the current, the member talk about the Susava Meva some gara.
Susava Meva. So in their system, it's very hard me to conceive of this system, but what it's talking about is that, like you have a hand that forms a fist, and so you've got the 5 fingers are the parts, and then the parts form a whole, right, which is called a fist, right? So that's the whole. But then in their system, all they say that it never forms this. They say that there is a whole, but they say that what you're perceiving is just these five parts. You never are perceiving the whole, and so then they call it like a something that is partless. I mean, partless is we're using as a translation word here. And I was trying to fool around with just saying sectionless, but it just comes down to partless. Is the only way you can translate it. It's two different words for the same thing. And in one case it says that it's a partless, that it's partless. And when Buddhists say that it has, det pengar men du kan. Det är det.
Sen med du.
Nej.
미국지 샤샤 졸라 kenji 샤샤샤.
Nej. Ja, det är det.
Det må gå här.
Ja, det går ju men det.
Det är så lätt. Yes.
Nej. So what?
Det må gå. Det är.
Oh, gärna.
Ja, det är så. Det är så gärna. Jäpsa. Det är så. Ja, det är det.
Ja.
Ja, det är.
Det pengar det. Yeah, we're just sort of stopping right here. Page 276, refuting the existence of a whole, and in particular of the qualities based upon it. So extreme consequence of it. Yeah, so we're on verse 89. Did Geshe kya gula?
Det går ner det där.
No, det.
Det går till la bjuda man det mai.
No, det.
Ja, ja, där. Där det går det.
No.
Ja. Starta som på mig det.
No.
치료 밴드 와서 자.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, we have to dedicate, right? I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri, and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the three times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds.